Hiya, so my name's Aimee Bond. Some of you may have seen me through various different things that I've done through college. I won the Apprentice of the Year through Grow Somerset, and I've been taking part in some of Kelly's sign-in videos. So basically today Kelly has asked me if I would do sort of like a little short thing about attachment. It was one of the theories that I enjoyed the most whilst I was at college. I know that we look at so many different theories and what they mean to the development of children and young people, but the one that I had an attachment to was the attachment theory. So the attachment theory was brought around by John Bowlby, and it basically means they look at the concepts of attaching to your caregiver. So a baby will attach to mum or whoever's giving that treatment. In a lovely world, everyone would have positive attachments to their caregivers, which would obviously lead to good forming relationships through life and help with the children's development. But sometimes what happens is children from a very young age don't have those proper relationships, those proper positive attachments. A lot of children that have been through trauma, where abuse has been shown, neglect, will have different styles of attachment. So it goes back to the whole Maslow hierarchy of needs. So for a child to form a good, positive attachment to the caregiver, the child needs all of its needs met. So this is where the Maslow hierarchy of needs come in, because a child needs the fundamentals, the water, the air, food. Without that, then they probably won't exist. Then you have the safety, so having a roof over your head, clothes on your back, and just being generally healthy. And again, without them, a child's really going to struggle. Then you have the love and belonging, so that's your family, your friends, your home, your nursery. Without these, you don't have the social element. We see children that don't go to nursery or don't go to school. They have problems with socialising with people. And then you have the esteem, so the confidence, the respect, and then obviously the problem solving and the creating. So we're going to look at 4 types of attachment theory now. You have the secure attachment. So this would be a child that has all of its needs met all of the time, and has that whole pyramid of the Maslow hierarchy. And so what this will look like is the caregiver, so mum, mostly dad, people that are looking after child, will react positively and quickly to the child's needs. So if they cry because they're hungry, that parent would be there with a bottle ready to feed. Needs its nappy changing, again the parent would be there changing its nappy promptly and quickly. So when we look at children that have got secure attachments, especially younger ones, we would look at the children being distressed when mum goes. That's their comfort. That's the person that tends to their every need. So a child is gonna be distressed when that comfort is gone. It's like taking a dummy away from a baby, taking mum away from a baby. If they have that secure attachment, that's what's going to happen. They'll be very happy to see caregiver, mum, dad come back. So children that are in nursery placements, when they see mum at the door, they're like, yay, mummy's come to pick me up. They'll be really excited, really relieved and happy that their caregiver's back. And they will also seek sort of comfort from their parents when scared and sad. For example, I remember when my little girl started nursery, the nursery came round to do a home visit. Now this is a whole different sort of presentation that I can give on why home visits are such a needed thing, but it's because my little girl would come to me if she's scared, she's sad, she's unsure. So the fact that nursery are coming into our house, she's got me there, and it almost sort of gives her that sense of, no, this is okay, these people are okay, there's nothing to be scared of. Then you have 3 types of insecure attachments. So you have insecure avoidance. I've got to remember which way all of this goes down because my notes are absolutely rubbish. So insecure avoidance. So we look at a home setting. We've got parents that are, they love their children. There's no neglect as such going on, but they're missing that love and belonging. So all of their basic needs are met, all of their safety needs are met. But when it gets to the loving and belonging, the child will most of the time know that their parents love them, but it's very, very difficult because the parents don't show that loving. They can be quite dismissive and unresponsive. So if you fall over and scrape your knee and you're like, oh, don't worry about it, why are you crying? There's no need to cry, it's only a scratch. They're the types of constant sort of, because we all have it, oh, come on, pick yourself up, that didn't hurt. But it's the constant dismissing, and this creates things in our brain for the child to sort of detach from emotions. So obviously, yeah, the caregiver would be unresponsive or uncaring, very dismissive. So the child's behaviour, they might not be upset when their caregivers leave them or return, because that child has been brought up not to show emotions, and it can be very difficult for them to show emotion, to sort of seek reassurance from other people. So if you've got a little one in nursery settings, it's very sort of held back. That might be because they are so dismissed at home. So this can lead on to older children into adulthood. So the types of people that we will be seeing with insecure avoidance attachment disorders would tend to be the older, younger people that, again, are very dismissive. They can't form relationships because they don't have that emotional element, or find it very hard to make those relationships. They might be quite dismissive of other people's emotions, and just seem emotionless themselves. Then you've got insecure anxiety attachment. So this would be children that have come from homes where the care is very inconsistent. So children that 1 minute their parents would be very loving, very caring, and then the next minute they're doing exactly the same thing, and there's nothing. You don't get any sort of reassurance from the parents. Now, again, this is okay for short periods of time, but we're talking about children that have had years. Sorry. We're talking about children that have had this constantly for years. Having parents that are 1 minute there to support them, then the next minute parents that couldn't care. So you tend to find these children being very clingy, very needy. They'll be distressed when caregiver leaves, because in their head, they don't know when that caregiver's coming back. Could it be an hour or could it be a week? We're looking at extreme cases, but that's the sort of thing that a child's going through in their head. They're not comforted by their return. They may be attached to them, so as soon as the caregiver comes in, they're clinging onto the legs, they're clinging onto the parents, they're moaning at the parents, but they're not happy to see that caregiver return. Then obviously older young people, they will be very scared of rejection. So if you say, that's a brilliant job, well done, that young person can be very much like, is it? Because they've had drilled into their head constantly that they are going to be rejected, that nothing's going to be good enough, because you're looking at children that would be crying for hours to try and get their parents' attention, and sometimes it wouldn't do anything. Then you have the insecure, disorganised. So this one looks at children that have been abused or neglected, and they won't have any attachment. So with the others, they have some sort of attachment with their caregivers, but it tends to be quite inconsistent, or sort of like one way or another. With disorganised attachment, they will have no attachment. They won't trust anyone. They will find it very, very difficult to form any sort of positive relationships in the future. And they are often really withdrawn. So I want to try and upload the still-faced experiment with you. Sorry, I sat on my feet and it really hurt my feet now. They're really cramped up. So yeah, the still-faced, I'm hoping most of you would be familiar with the still-faced experiment, and I'm hoping to attach it. But that just shows the type of thing that children go through with attachment disorders, and you see the baby really pleading to try and get mum's attention. And this is what it's like for children on a day-to-day basis. And it's not just for a couple of minutes. This could go on for weeks, months, years. So it's very hard to dismiss the video of, oh yeah, well, it's only 5 minutes. But imagine children that have had that forever, for as long as they can remember. So having attachment disorders, again, changes the way that your brain wires itself. So there's a lot that you can look into when you're looking at the development unit of how children develop. Quite a lot of the attachment theory goes into that. So obviously maybe when we look at development, children's development, we can look at this. And quite a lot of the children with attachment disorders, 9 times out of 10 live in survival mode. So you have 3 parts of your brain. I won't go into it too much, but you've got the thinking brain, the doing brain, and then the survival brain. And when children live in the survival, they are in fight and flight all the time. They find it very hard to come out of that. So you can start to see where attachment comes from and how it can have such an impact on young people's lives. And that was just why I was making the video, really. It's just to give you a brief outline of attachment. There are loads and loads and loads of videos on YouTube. That's where I've got most of my information from about attachment disorders. So yeah, they are brilliant. There's lots of case studies out there. So if you want to know more information, just type it into YouTube, type it into Google. There is plenty that come up about it. But yeah, so overall, you can have a secure attachment, and that is having consistent parents. Then there's 3 types of insecure attachments, and they vary in what they would demonstrate. And yeah, That's brilliant. Right, thank you.